Hello, Simon from Merkit Tours here, and I'm in the Underground Vaults in Blair Street, which are directly under the South Bridge of Edinburgh. The old South Bridge of Edinburgh was built in the 1780s to span the Cowgate Valley, a deep valley in the middle of the old town. And originally, when the bridge was built, it stood alone. It was open on its sides, and people could pass freely back and forth underneath its huge arches. But quite quickly, tenement buildings were built either side of the bridge, sandwiching it and enclosing those arches. And then floors and ceilings were built inside the arches to create a series of vaulted chambers down here, 2, 3, 4 stories deep, which is illustrated nicely with this cross-section of the bridge here. As you can see, one arch remained open, and it's still open to this day. It's called the Cowgate Arch, and traffic passes back and forth through there. Now, if you're walking along the top of the bridge, you could be forgiven for thinking you're on a normal shop-lined street, until you get to the midway point here. And then suddenly you find yourself looking across a parapet down to a street 30-odd feet below. Originally, when the bridge was built, this street was one of the fanciest shopping parades in Europe. It was lined with luxury shops, dressmakers, wine merchants, gold makers and the like. And that stood in sharp contrast to what was going on down here in the Cowgate Valley, because by the middle of the 1800s, the Cowgate Valley had become one of the most desperate slums in Europe, inhabited by what they used to call the lower orders. So people lower financially and lower socially, but in this case, as you can see, lower geographically too as well. And now this sharp contrast in wealth wasn't lost on the great writer Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Louis Stevenson was born in Edinburgh in the middle of the 1800s and grew up here. He went on, of course, to write Treasure Island and Jekyll and Hyde. And in 1878, he also wrote a book about his hometown called Picturesque Notes, Edinburgh Picturesque Notes, a little booklet really. And in that booklet, he describes standing at that very spot there and looking over the South Bridge into the Cowgate. And he writes, to look over the South Bridge to the Cowgate Valley below, full of crying hawkers, is to view one rank of society from another in the twinkle of an eye. So basically, that was the spot where there was no disguising the sharp divisions between Scotland's social classes. He had a way with words, Robert Louis Stevenson. But anyway, I hope very much that you can visit us here in the Underground Vaults in Blair Street for one of our ghost tours or one of our underground history tours.